Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of PCCS's emPower Hour. I'm Giovanella Stewart, the social media and content coordinator here at PCCS. And today I am joined by Evalesse Segarra, our outreach and engagement specialist. So thank you so much for joining me, Evalesse. It's so good to see you.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this.
So to kick off season 5 of emPower Hour, we're going to be discussing everything there is to know about our Disability Ally Initiative training, also known as DAI. So Evalesse, can you just share with us a little bit about yourself, your role at PCCS, and your connection to DAI?
Sure. So as you said, my name is Evalesse. I am the Outreach and Engagement Specialist for PCCS. I do a lot of outreach. I do a lot of trainings, whether it's internally or externally. We offer trainings for businesses, schools, any type of thing you could imagine. I've also been with PCCS for 5 years, so I do have a lot of knowledge on the different programs that we offer as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wonderful. So before we get into all the specifics of the training, can you tell us what it means to be a disability ally?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So being a disability ally isn't just black and white. And of course, when we hear allyship, especially with any topic that's tied to it, we think about, okay, we're supporting that person, yay, their rights, their regulations, things like that, we're supporting them. But to be a disability ally really means to just reject those negative conceptions that we've had about people with disabilities, possibly in the past. We're ensuring that people with disabilities are fully immersed in the community, and we're making sure that we're prioritizing accessibility, as well as being put in those difficult situations, right? We could talk about allyship. We could go back and forth and, yeah, ally, great. But when it comes to a difficult situation where you see that a person with a disability is either being neglected or their rights aren't being upheld, it's nerve-wracking to kind of jump in and be that person, to be an advocate and to be an ally for that person. So being a disability ally encompasses so many different things, but that's just a very small baseline of what it means.
Yeah, no, you make a lot of great points. I think, to be an ally is one thing, but to put that into action is also another thing. So, as we talk more about the training, I'm sure we'll get into that. So can you just tell us how DAI started, I guess, like when, how it came about?
Yeah, so DAI started in 2015. It doesn't seem that long ago since we're in 2023, but this has been going on for a couple of years. So pretty much we were kind of looking at the culture, the disability culture. So people often view people with disabilities as, okay, that's a personal problem. This is a negative. They have to kind of go through those challenges. It's personal. We don't have to worry about those things. But in reality, disability issues and problems that a person with a disability has is really from a lack of accessibility in the community. And that's really what we were seeing. Of course, at PCCS, it's kind of hard for us because, we provide the services and, we know that we're allies and we're here. We're very person-centered and we're here to support people with disabilities. But it's really the community around us. Once the people we support, leave our services and go out into the community, what are those challenges that they're facing? And we started noticing and just speaking to the people we support and just speaking to our colleagues and other people in the community. And we're realizing that it's really the community that's not educated. So we really need to make sure, okay, let's make sure that we're all accessible. Let's make sure we understand just the baseline of disability culture. Because, even if it's not with malice, there are a lot of negative connotations towards, people with disabilities. A really big example that I use actually in the training is, let's say a mother and a child is walking in the street and they see someone in a wheelchair. And usually children are curious, naturally. So the child will say, hey, mom, what's that? Why is that person in a wheelchair? And the mom will quickly, shuffle their child next to them like, oh, don't be rude. But you're already implementing that negative connotation in their head, like, oh, we don't talk about disabilities. That's not something that we talk about. That's like a very hush-hush thing. When in reality, we could be celebrating our differences. The mother could have said instead, hey, isn't it so cool that our bodies are so different? Isn't it so cool that there's so many different types of people on different functioning levels in the world, and we all are together in one community? So it's really just seeing how the community was acting and how the challenges that people with disabilities have had, and coming up with this training to make sure we're educating the community and even people, internally or in in these types of programs, like nonprofit organizations, just like PCCS and, the DSPs, especially, that's direct support professionals. They work directly with people with disabilities, even them teaching them how to be effective allies, how to be strong and confident in those challenging situations, or if they come across a situation where they have to be an ally. So that's it kind of snowballed from there. And we expanded a lot within these past couple of years, and it's super exciting. And I'm very proud to be a part of it and a facilitator.
Oh, I love all of that. And I think what you mentioned about like the example that you use, like with the mother and their child. So something that I've heard Nisha Tumber, our director of outreach and engagement, speak about is, since I've had the chance to join her on a few trainings, is she always says, say it ugly and we'll fix it together. So I think this training really opens up that kind of safe space. So like it's a learning opportunity. So we want to be able to create that space where, you come as you are, and, we're able to fix everything together and like spread that knowledge. So I think that's another really great thing about this training.
Yeah, for sure.
So is the training customizable for other organizations?
Yeah, so that's my favorite part about Disability Ally Initiative. It is super customizable. So we have our basic community training. That really just goes over disability culture, allyship, how to be an ally and things like that. That's very basic. But we have offered it to many different external businesses. An example I could give you is we had Disability Ally Initiative training in Wagner College. There was a physician's assistance class that the professor reached out to us and said, we would really like this training, but can you make it towards bedside manner when it comes to working with people with disabilities, or how to address them? Because a lot of times a person with a disability either brings an advocate or a staff member or a family member or whoever with them. And a lot of times, it's not even out of malice, the doctor or the nurse will turn to the person that's with them because they automatically assume like, okay, this person won't be able to understand me, or won't, we won't be able to have that knowledge relayed in a proper way. And we taught them that, no, we should be addressing that person directly. Like, this is their appointment, like that person is there for support. And if support is needed, that person will say something. And we've also had another one that was honestly one of my favorite DAIs that I've ever taught, was through our district attorney's office in Staten Island, which was super huge that we, were able to get in there. They were awesome. They gave us great feedback. But working with people with disabilities in trauma settings, I mean, that's something that they have the background and knowledge of, especially when it comes to, crime and being a victim of a crime. They know exactly, how to speak to people but when it comes to people with disabilities, when you're getting that story, especially from a victim, it's super hard sometimes. So we gave them a lot of tools, like, making sure there are sensory items present, giving them the time and the space to answer a question, making sure that we're not putting them through 7 interviews of the same story, because depending on the disability, sometimes, their stories could get confused. And a lot of people are asking a lot of questions. It could be overwhelming for, a neurotypical person. So we gave them the skills and the tools to be able to treat people with disabilities as, neurotypical people, but also giving them, okay, you need a little bit of time, like giving them that space to answer the questions and, grieve and be that victim, and being able to share that information at their own pace, giving them that safe space to do so. So this training is super flexible for many businesses, and those are just 2 of the many that we've made some variations for.
No, I think that's great. I love that, like, the training, it's not one size fits all, which is really, I think, what PCCS is always, trying to show is like, be person-centered, but also like we understand that, everything and everyone is different. So I think that's really great that we are able to customize it for different organizations. So what would you say for an organization looking to be more accessible or inclusive? What is the first step that they should take?
So in my opinion, the first step would be just prioritizing accessibility, right? And that's not just accessibility for people with disabilities, but that's just in general, right? Looking at whether it's a business that has a building, making sure there's accessibility to get to the office, or if someone is doing a task and they might need assistive devices in order to do that task, doesn't mean that they're ineligible, but giving them those tools and skills to make sure that your company as a whole is just accessible. And then, of course, after that, it kind of snowballs, making sure that you're educated about disability culture. As a lot of businesses are equal opportunity employers, making sure like, what does that mean? What is reasonable accommodation? What are we, and especially with businesses that have customers that might have disabilities, and there's visible disabilities and invisible disabilities. So we should be prioritizing accessibility to all. And then from there, once they gain more knowledge, and of course, this training obviously would help. But the first step really is to just saying, okay, where do we lack? What can we do accessibility wise? And then from there, move forward. And then once we got the accessibility down, now let's start training our team, or, just start researching the different, any type of knowledge that they may need on people with disabilities.
Absolutely. And then, shamelessly plug ourselves, take our training. For sure. So we really have grown the training since the start in 2015. So in 2020, about roughly how many disability allies would you say you've trained?
So in the past year, we've trained about 702 people.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, and it's definitely growing. And this year we have a goal for a lot more than that. So we're hoping to reach more people this year.
That's great. So I have some of the stats from the past couple of years. So in 2018, we had 145 disability allies. So even from 2018 to now, just to see how much that has grown is really amazing. And also, I think what's another thing that's great is this training isn't only Staten Island based. You've taken it to other boroughs, I believe. So that's also another amazing thing. And then also Nisha Tumber and Nicole Delpreti, our associate executive director, they were able to present the training back in October at I believe it was CQL conference in Las Vegas. So not only are we not just Staten Island based, New York based, we've now taken it to Las Vegas. So I think that is so amazing. And I really hope that you're able to do more of that throughout 2023, because that would be really great.
Yeah, we're very excited for what the future is to come.
So now, with a kind of a focus, since it is still the start of the new year and we are in January, what are your hopes for DAI throughout 2023?
I feel like there's a lot of big dreams. So we are on a great pace. The partnerships that we've already connected with just on Staten Island or, in the 5 boroughs is really tremendous. I mean, we have partnerships with Wagner College, College of Staten Island, Northwell Health, the JCC, District Attorney's Office, and the list goes on. So really our goal now, moving forward is, okay, we have this great information that has a lot of good feedback and people want this training, which is great. Back when this started, we did a lot of outreach and we had to educate people on what is a disability ally and then try to present it. And I feel like now that we've kind of been around, the word's kind of been spreading and people are reaching out to us to gain the training, which is so great. But we're really looking to kind of copyright this material because we have been working on it for so long and we've gotten such a good feedback and the data is there and it's showing that people are actually learning things from this training. So we want to copyright this and kind of expand it, make it bigger. Las Vegas was a super great opportunity for us to get out of, the East Coast at least and, go across the country and present this. So now we even have people talking on the complete other side, of the United States. So we're hoping that in the future, we could continue to do the small businesses and we want to keep, following up and making sure that the local community of Staten Island, because that is our home, is also accessible and we're reaching this community as well. But we're not stopping there. We're reaching the community as a whole throughout, virtually, in person. We're very flexible with where we do these trainings and who facilitates it. And we're just trying to get that information out there to as many people as possible.
I love that. And so with your partnership with Wagner College, I know you've been doing a kind of Train the Trainer series. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what that kind of means?
Yeah, so originally, we've always had kind of like a Train the Trainer thing for people that do want to become Disability Ally Initiative trainers. But for this one specifically, Wagner College, so we started off our partnership with a Management 201 class, and they wanted their Disability Ally training to be more towards reasonable accommodation. What does that look like? And the legality of that stuff. But they were also, as we were just in conversation, we were talking about, the workforce in general. there's always a deficit in the workforce, especially in this field. We need more direct support professionals to be able to provide the services that we do have. So the students actually came up with this idea, which I thought was awesome, of being trainers and training, themselves on how to facilitate DAI, but not just facilitate it to their peers. Because a lot of the times there's a fear of the unknown, right? When you see direct support professional, you're like, okay, every person is different. So every person is going to need something specific. What if I don't know this? And it's a lot of fear. It's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of, what if I can't do this? What if I can't do that? But I feel like if we give the students the education piece on what it means to be a DSP, what it means to be a disability ally, what is working with a person with a disability, look like, they could educate their peers on it and kind of alleviate those fears. Because, I could come into it and give them a training, but also I'm from PCCS. Obviously, it's a little bit biased. I'm from an organization that services people with disabilities. So they're going to look at me and be like, all right, well, you say it's okay, but what is the reality of the situation? But hearing it from their peers, I'm hoping is going to encourage more college students, especially, to apply for this position, because being a DSP also is very flexible. So giving them that knowledge of, hey, this is the job. This is super attainable. This is something that I know you guys can do. And you could make a difference in a person, we support a person with disabilities lives while also being flexible with college classes. So, we're hoping that encouragement peer-to-peer will kind of lead us for us to get, more people in the workforce, but also them to kind of spread the word on disability allyship.
And I think that also kind of brings back to what I mentioned in the beginning, just creating that safe space. So like with them being able to training their peers, that's really wonderful. So for our listeners and our viewers, if they are interested in becoming a disability ally, how can they get in contact with you? What are the first steps for that?
So you can, on our website, PCCSNY.org, we do have a Disability Ally Initiative tab on there that you can schedule a training. It has exactly how long the training is going to be. It shows the flexibility. If you are interested in a Disability Ally Initiative training that needs to be flexible on content, you can reach out to me directly at Segarra at PCCSNY.org. That's my email. You could also reach out to my supervisor, Nisa Tumber, who's the Director of Outreach and Engagement.
Perfect. That is so amazing. Well, I think we've really covered everything, and I really hope that our viewers and listeners will consider becoming a disability ally, because it really is such an amazing training. And, of course, as Evalesse mentioned, it is customizable. So we really encourage other agencies to take part in this. So thank you, Evalesse, so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to have some more allies.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.